Ladies and gentlemen, segment number 11 of the Instant Reaction podcast features the Big East Tournament preview show. And of course, we will be continuing to preview a whole bunch of the teams within the Big East. And this time, we will be previewing the University of Connecticut UConn Huskies with Hearst Media Connecticut UConn Huskies beat writer Dave Borges. Dave, thank you so much for joining us here this afternoon. How are things up north from us?
Things are going pretty well, guys. A lot of anticipation for this Big East tournament. We're really excited to get there. I'll be training in there on Wednesday, and I wish I could go right now, actually.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And especially since, this is the first time that UConn will be playing in front of fans on a neutral court at the Big East tournament. Obviously, last year they were re-entered into the Big East, and there were no fans allowed at Madison Square Garden due to the pandemic last year. So this is definitely going to be something big. I'm sure DeLuca will get to that later on. But of course, the UConn Huskies, they finished 22-8 in this season, the regular season, and 13-6 in the Big East. And of course, we take a peek at the bracket. And of course, as we've done in the last couple of conversations, of course, in the first round, it's going to be all starting off with Xavier and Butler. St. John's DePaul will follow. And to round off the Wednesday nightcap, Seton Hall and Georgetown. And of course, we look all the way on the bottom on Thursday night. UConn will be playing in that 9:30 contest. And it could very well be Seton Hall, and that would be something big for sure, because as we know, Danny Hurley, that's his alma mater, and that's also some bad blood too with Adama Sanogo. We remember a couple of years ago there was some chatter where Sanogo might have gone to Seton Hall, but then he decided to go to UConn. So it should be tons of fun. Dave, we got to ask you this. Of course, first team RJ Cole, Adama Sanogo. We got a chance to see what Sanogo is capable of doing on a night in and night out basis, and he's just a whirlwind, man. And he's going up for one of the best centers in all of the country with a couple of awards that he could be up for. Talk about what you've seen with him this season.
With Adama Sanogo, yeah, he's been tremendous. I mean, going into the season, I thought he was a little bit overlooked. He was not even picked for the All Big East first or second team. You look at his numbers from last year, you can kind of understand them. Maybe people weren't expecting it, but just watching him, on a daily basis last season, and seeing his footwork, his great hands, his really classic kind of low post moves, and his ability to score down low, and this year he's even better at all that. He's become one of the best rebounders in the conference. I think he leads the league in rebounding, at least in conference games. He's been a good rim protector. So, he's one of the top 5 finalists for the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Center of the Year award, which goes nationally, which is tough competition when you look at some of the guys he's going against. And even for that matter, some of the guys who's not even Hunter Dickinson of Michigan didn't even make the top final 5. And there's some other good names too, and Nate Watson of Providence among them. So, he's I was a little surprised he made the top 5. I am one of the voters, so I probably helped out a little bit. But, he's right up there with some of the top centers in a very good center crop in college basketball this year.
Yeah, and just to correct me if I'm wrong, but also I believe Drew Timme was named to that list as well, as Kofi Coburn as well from Illinois. So you've got a whole bunch of guys, and to have Adama Sanogo in there is really big too. Those two were on that list, right? I believe.
Yes, they are. Walker Kessler from Auburn, I believe. And who's of course, Oscar Schwebe from Kentucky, who,
yes,
in my opinion, might be the player of the year in college basketball. So he might win that award. There's 2 or 3 different guys who could win. Yeah. I would say Adama's probably, probably on the outside looking in on that award. But just to get to the top 5 is pretty impressive.
Now, RJ Cole, of course, one of his dreams was to play for UConn. Obviously, the Howard transfer. He's been really the floor general for Danny Hurley's team since last season, and of course, he's going to be going to Madison Square Garden for now the second time. This time playing in front of fans at the Big East tournament. 9:30, as we brought up just at the top of the show on Thursday night. And what RJ Cole has done, we got a chance actually to chat with him during media day, and he was just all really soaking it in. And that's what he kept saying to me, was that he just wanted to soak in the opportunity and just, make sure that he would go out on top here in some way, in some way or form. Within the Big East, of course, and try and get back to the tournament, to the big dance, of course, and, win a game. What do you see from R.J. Cole this year? Obviously, no James Bouknight. He was drafted into the NBA. How has this offense also opened up a little bit for Cole and for Sanogo and for also Jordan Hawkins, too, who was named to the all-freshman team?
Yeah, well, the offense by and large runs through Adama Sanogo, which is kind of interesting, a little different than a lot of schools. Though again, there's a lot of really good, talented big men this year. So, but even for Danny Hurley, it's a little bit different. But the thing is, when Sanogo is not in foul trouble for one, and really productive down low, that opens things up because teams will sag on him, teams will double him, and that will open up things for the guards like R.J. Cole, who's a pretty good shooter. But and also gives him the ability to kind of drive to the hole and dish off or score. He's been tremendous, taking the ball to the hole. He's listed as 6 foot, 6'1", but he's really probably about 5'10".
Yeah.
But he plays like he's 6'5", and he thinks like he's 6'5" because he really takes it to the hole and really makes them tough runners and layups and shots in the paint. And none better example than the game, the go-ahead basket he scored against Villanova in a big win a couple of weeks ago in Hartford. So he's really the heart and soul of the team. Up until about 2-3 weeks ago, I would have said Sanogo was probably the MVP of the team, and I still think he's probably the best player. But I'd say the MVP of this team is R.J. Cole.
Okay, well. Listen, I mean, from what we have seen with this UConn team, they are just a pesky team and really obviously up in your area, very, very, notable, especially with what has gone on with Danny Hurley, with some controversial ejections, but we won't go on further there. But, just especially down here in the New York area, it's obviously been all about Seton Hall and St. John's, but, we continue to hear about what UConn has done, and they, especially down here anyway, it's been pretty quiet because they've really been in that, in the range that they were selected to finish in. They were selected to finish, I believe, second in the preseason poll. They eventually finished the regular season at number 3. Dave, I got to ask you this. With what UConn has accomplished this season, 22 wins, 8 losses, 13 Big East Conference victories, was there anything that you might have expected to go a different route? Maybe something that Danny Hurley did not accomplish this year? Not personally, but, on the floor.
Well, I mean, I think, to be honest with you, I think I picked them to finish third. I picked Xavier to finish second.
Yeah.
I was a little off on that prediction. I just saw the talent they had, and I still think it's possible that if those guys can get together this week, they could make a run in the Garden. But, I expected UConn to be a top 3 team, and they are. They've got some nice. They beat Auburn on a neutral floor back in November, which for quite a while was Auburn's only loss up until about 3 weeks ago, and of course they did beat Villanova on February 22nd here in Hartford. Now, I guess one criticism you might make is that they, against the top teams of the Big East, I believe they're 1-4. They're 0-1 against Providence, 1-1 against Villanova, and 0-2 against Creighton, and they've actually lost 5 straight to Creighton over the past 2 years, which is crazy. So, you might have wanted them to perform a little better against those top teams, but they swept Marquette, and they split with Seton Hall. So, it's been a very good season for them. They've had some injuries. They had a long COVID pause. That's something that Dan Hurley mentions that quite a bit. Every team's had injuries, and some more than others. UConn's actually been very healthy over the past month or so. So I think by and large they've had just about what you kind of might have expected from this season.
And keep in mind also, you brought up about that Creighton loss too. They were trailing at one point just by looking at the old stat broadcast feed. They were down by 16, by as much as 16, with 4:04 to go in the first half, 34-18, and then they eventually really put it into high gear, and they fell by 2, but that's still pretty, a pretty decent comeback there. The next question for you, Dave, here is the eventual, and again, I don't want to say that, that Seton Hall will be the opponent for UConn, but we saw what Georgetown almost did against Seton Hall on Wednesday, or last Wednesday rather. And they were awfully close to potentially getting their first Big East victory. They couldn't get it done. Kadari Richmond is right now dealing with a little bit of a sprain, but according to Kevin Willard, he says that he's ready to go. We expect Seton Hall to be the opponent. How cool will that be again to have those two going head to head on a neutral floor? They both won a game, respectively, on each other's home floor, and now obviously matchup number 3. Who do you see as the who might have the advantage? And really UConn heading into this game. What do you see?
I'll tell you what. I don't think UConn could have picked a worse quarterfinal round opponent, assuming that Seton Hall does beat Georgetown, which we're kind of assuming. I mean, Georgetown didn't make the great run last year, but they weren't coming off a winless regular season. So Seton Hall's playing well now, as you know. I think, what is it, 5-6 straight?
Yeah.
They just won at Creighton, which UConn couldn't do earlier in the week. It was a big win because it put Creighton down to the number 4 seed and UConn was able to take the number 3 seed.
Yep.
Which in hindsight, maybe UConn would have rather been the 4. It might have been a slightly easier path. But now they got ostensibly Seton Hall and Villanova to get through to get to the finals. But Seton Hall's playing well. I'm a top 25 voter, and I actually voted for him 25th this week. I threw him a bone. They've been playing well, and so that's a real tough first round matchup. The first matchup in New Jersey went to overtime. UConn had just come off a long COVID pause, so maybe they were a little rusty. They didn't really play like it, though. It was a real good game. Seton Hall won in overtime, and then UConn got the payback in stores a few weeks ago. So, yeah, to me, that's probably of the potential teams of sort of like the Marquettes or the Butlers and whatnot of the world, Seton Hall is definitely the toughest quarterfinal round matchup UConn could have asked for.
Luke, take it away.
Yeah, Dave, I mean, you talk about what we all assume to be the potential matchup, and if it does in fact be, it could be really the matchup of the tournament. I could be so bold to say, even though it's only a quarterfinal matchup, just the way these two teams match up against each other, I think it brings a great game. The fan atmosphere, Madison Square Garden, I can't imagine what that's going to be like, especially for a team like UConn, who's now back in the Big East, this time for the first time with fans. And let's be serious here. Back in the old Big East, Madison Square Garden was a UConn building. UConn owned that building. It was their place. Fans would overrun it. Didn't matter who they were playing, except for maybe Syracuse back then. They kind of split that. But overall, it was a UConn building. And I personally put importance on fan momentum. I think a loud crowd really can drive momentum into a game. How important do you see it that UConn will finally have their fans back in a full Madison Square Garden, and how they could use that to kind of run this table?
Yeah, UConn fans are so hungry, man. They obviously had the lean years. They hated being in the American Conference. Quite frankly, the team did not really live up to expectations in the American Conference. I think UConn fans have a chip on the shoulder, even dating back to just the idea that they were kind of passed over in conference realignment a decade ago. It's kind of stuck in their craw, and it's understandable because I thought UConn really get hurt the most of any school in that whole process. And then of course, again, the weak years under Kevin Ollie, and then he gets fired. The first year or so under Hurley was tough, but you can see the seeds building. And now UConn fans feel like this program is pretty much back. I mean, maybe not a national championship contention quite yet, but definitely, obviously, a team that could win some games in the NCAA tournament. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of UConn fans there on Thursday night. That energy could definitely help the Huskies out because they played well. They were undefeated at Gamble Pavilion this year, which gives them a big advantage, and it certainly could put them over the top on Thursday.
Would you? Yeah. So again, presuming it's Seton Hall, just keep saying presuming because the game hasn't happened yet. What is the biggest X factor for UConn? Because to take down Seton Hall, who would you say really has to step up? Maybe not necessarily the super. Obviously, you look at your superstars, but is there a key depth piece that UConn has that really might need to make that extra push?
Well, I'd say two things. Like Tyrese Martin, guy who averages about 13 points a game, shoots over 40% from three, averages about 7 or 8 rebounds a game. Didn't make any of the Big East first, second, or honorable mentions, and I think so he might be a little peeved about that. I'm sure Dan Hurley will use that as motivation. He's a guy he's certainly been an all-league type performer all season. He's had some huge games, a couple of different games where he scored over 20 points and a half. When he gets hot, he's on fire and plays with great energy. He's the kind of guy who could really put them over the top. And the other thing too is I think, and really this applies to UConn the rest of the season. A guy like Tyler Polley or Jordan Hawkins can get hot from three. Now Jordan Hawkins has been in concussion protocol. We don't know whether he'll play Thursday night or at all this week. But if he does, or for that matter, if Tyler Polley, a good 3-point shooter, can get hot, that can really put UConn over the hump because it gives them frees up Adama Sanogo for one, and just gives them a lot more of a diversified offense if they can get some guys shooting well from outside.